And yet another addition into the hidden history of the African American fighting man. His name is Charles Herbert Garvin. Dr. Charles Herbert Garvin. He was an African American physician, ladies and gentlemen, during World War I. And obviously a physician before World War I, but he was part of the Medical Reserve Corps, 92nd Division, a section of course, the designated African American segregated army in the United States Army in World War I. He served in France with the rank of captain and as a battalion surgeon in the 367th Infantry. Now, I give you all this information for good reason, folks, so that you will go back and check it. There's a lot to find out here. And all of this information, I mean, all you do is put it up in your computer and go to the archives. And you'll find this. What's significant about it? Well, it was World War I, and the war wasn't going very well for the Allies, particularly when it came down to the number of physicians necessary. I don't know if you realize this, ladies and gentlemen, but there were millions of people who lost their lives. Now, of course, much of that was from disease and the lack of medical care for both the population and, of course, the men in combat. But it was, I mean, it was not unusual to have tens of thousands to be killed in battle, one battle, as a result of, well, fire, in some cases, infections the other. Well, America found out something, and that was this. It just didn't have enough white physicians. As usual, just as George Washington found out during the Revolutionary War, they needed African Americans. You know, it happens every time this way throughout the history of these United States, and every battle we've ever had is always this assertion that somehow or another African Americans are unnecessary and that they can't fight, or can't be a physician, or can't serve. Wrong. Because let me just tell you, Charles Herbert Garvin was extraordinarily necessary. Not only was he necessary, he was sought out for good reason. Because at that time, ladies and gentlemen, during World War I, tens of thousands of Americans were being killed on the battlefield. Garvin was a close friend of W.E.B. Du Bois. Some 17 letters were written between them between 1927 and 1948. This guy went on to do some incredible things, folks, to say the least. But more than anything else, he saved an incredible amount of lives. Not that you would know that, given the fact that he was African American and there were so many African Americans necessary. We're talking hundreds of thousands of African Americans who served during World War I. Folks, in many cases, just to get in combat, some of those African Americans had to join the French army. And boy, did they. That's another story. Appreciate the person who wrote me, and really appreciated the history that I'm giving on this. Look, I really do. For many, you look at it as history, but really it's news. News, the whole concept of news is that it's not old. Now, I know this is old because it's history, but it's new to you. And I appreciate how the writer eloquently put it. He said, thank you, Rip, for giving the history, but trust me, brother, it is actually news to me. And I appreciate that. That speaks volumes. And as a reason for why it's news to you, as a reason for why you were not told the many examples of heroism by African American troops and how African Americans served this country and made this country what it is. All right, let's get to this, folks. A lot to cover, short period of time. Some of the JFK papers have been released, John Fitzgerald Kennedy papers. And we'll throw that on the table because it's Friday. I've not had an opportunity to go to them. Some of you still believe in the conspiracies. We'll entertain some of those. I have my thoughts about it. But I've not seen the papers directly, and we anticipate doing so. I like getting the narratives. I do. I failed to mention this yesterday. There was a cross burning in Covington County. Used to be a time that would be front page on every newspaper in Mississippi. Well, sort of, kind of, actually, during so-called Jim Crow. Covington County. What's in Covington? What municipality? Do you know, Ro?
Not on the top of my head. Give me a second.
Covington County, that's north, south. I'm sorry, folks. I
Near
know.
Collins, I know that much.
It's near Collins. Okay, that's up just north of Hattiesburg then. South of McGee and Mendenhall, that area. Well,
Yeah, this is Mount Olive Collins Seminary area.
yeah. Woman who lives at the home where the cross was burning said she couldn't believe the sight. Quoting her, "I was upset that someone would have the nerve, the audacity to do something like that." The woman, who asked not to be identified, was speaking to law enforcement and to the local television station. The woman said she believes the action of burning the handmade cross was used as a threat to her grandson from another parent in the community. Boats and everything, like they just built it just for that purpose, she said. Speaking of the cross, you have a picture of it, Ro? For him to tell him, I'm quoting her now, for him to tell him if he sees him talking to her, he killed him. That's wrong. The woman said the threats are racially motivated. She believes the man is upset her grandson, an African-American teen, was dating or hanging out with his daughter, who is Caucasian. Things that still happen like this is in this day and time. We can't control the younger generation, who they talk to. They have a mind of their own, she says. But to threaten to kill a teenager, that's wrong. So the Deputy Chief McLaurin said the FBI were called to the scene on Wednesday. The people are, the people here nowadays, they just ain't wearing the hoods, she says.
She expects Klan activity.
It still affects their lives. The KKK, or whatever you want to call it, is active. It's right here in Seminary, Mississippi, like it was in those days. Now, it doesn't identify the woman as being the mother. She's just not identified. It means I have to get up out of here, she says. I gotta leave. I refuse to stay in the community. It's unbelievable. Find out who she is. I want to talk to her. No, you don't have to get up out of there. Oh, no, ma'am, no. You don't have to get up out of there. She keeps referring to the person who did it as a he, and she's thinking that maybe it was a relative of the Caucasian her grandson is seeing.
She's fairly confident this has something to do with some sort of relationship that the grandson has or had.
So let's see the hands of those who think this is a terrorist attack. Why aren't they putting their hands up, bro?
Well, because this is seminary.
Oh, and it's a cross?
And it's a cross.
I guess if it was a crescent.
And it would be no question.
It'd be hard to build a crescent, though, wouldn't it?
Out of wood?
Yeah, out of wood. I mean, the Muslims burn a crescent. Would they even think to do that anyway?
They wouldn't do that. They don't like
What idiot would do that anyway and burn a cross? What kind of person you think would do that, bro? I'm trying to...
For the most part.
Well, I'm sorry, it's not burning a cross, it's lighting a cross. Yeah, it's lighting a cross,
They're not burning it.
So I'm just trying to understand let me just say the kind of terroristic hate this is. Someone had to sit down and go and buy the wood and then fashion the cross.
They got to build that.
Yeah, she said they had boats in it. They had boats in the cross to hold it together.
So there's at least two pieces of
Could have been actually notched out. Could have been 2x4s, 2x6s. I don't know.
That's a whole other thing.
Well, absolutely. You take your time to do that. You got to be a craftsman.
But you do all that just to burn that.
Well, because you hate someone that much. Well, you hate someone that much, and it's not just intimidation. It's actually what they do. They want to kill that boy.
But this is a message.
They want to kill that boy.
That's the message.
Let's make this very, very clear, ladies and gentlemen. I've been around and I've seen cross burnings. Make no bones about it. When I said to you that there are people who do not impart human characteristics to some people simply because they are a different color, it is true. This person is the kind of person that would walk into a Dollar General and shoot someone over $1. Now, I know that's a criminal act, you say. That's a matter of stealing. I got you. There's no difference here. I want to make this very clear. When you read the FBI's definition, the FBI's definition of terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, every terrorist you've ever read about, every one of them, even before 9/11, going back to Sam Bowers in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, every one of those terrorists, it was about revenge. It's revenge. I don't care what religion it is. I don't care what ethnicity. The Hutu and the Tutsi there in Africa, in Rwanda, those were revenge killings. And that was Negro against Negro, I might add. That's the terrorism. The same thing that happened in Las Vegas. Oh, what did he do? It's revenge. Against who and for what? Against whoever. It is going back at the world. It is this person being pissed off. He's being pissed off enough for what he perceives has happened to him or being done to him.
Rick, that sounds a lot like a motive.
That's exactly right. You guys in law enforcement need to get over yourself and stop fumbling over yourself, because the reason why you won't charge KKK or anyone else with being terrorists because they are white, in quotes. And you need to get off the whiteism. Oh, you're not a racist. You need to get off that whiteism because it's going to get people killed. That's what you have here. That's what you have here. I see nowhere in here whereby, oh yeah, it was a terrorist attack. Oh, it's a warning. As if this is just commonplace in Mississippi. I'll give you a warning. Double-aught shotgun shells. That's a warning. Here's the irony. Had this woman fired a Morrisburg pistol grip shotgun pump 3-4 times at the guy with the cross and lighting it in her yard, she would have been charged. That's the irony. Because it wasn't a threat.
What?
Oh, it's not a threat.
Somebody set a fire in her yard.
It's not a threat. It might be arson.
With religious iconography.
It's trespassing road, but it's not a threat. To this day, ladies and gentlemen, cross burning in a yard is not considered a threat. It's considered as what Whitlock called intimidation.
Well, I tell you what.
Well, it's definitely a sign.
I tell both y'all what. It's
like
a
a
sign.
prelude for something later.
It's a sign of a
Keep
threat.
playing with it. You're gonna find what you're looking for.
Well,
It's
it
a
goes
threat.
way beyond that. It goes beyond it. This is a commentary, in my view, ladies and gentlemen, on how we have soft-shoed around this for years. And it's about time for this woman and others to look at those individuals who are investigating, not only the FBI, but public officials. In the state of Mississippi, ladies and gentlemen, it still isn't considered as a crime. Worst case scenario, this guy burning a cross in this lady's yard from the state of Mississippi would be arson. Lighting a fire in public. That's no less than burning trash. But what did he actually do, Reb? It wasn't leaning against the house. It was sitting out in the yard. What did he actually do? So we're going to find her. We're going to chat with her, and we will respect her anonymity. However, ma'am, you need to talk to your grandson. You really do. This isn't the first time. It's not unusual. And you also, what's interesting about this is this is a female. Are there any men in seminary?
Well, there'd have to be at least a few.
Yeah. She said boats and everything. That's interesting that he would actually put boats in it.
Maybe this was previously used as an actual cross somewhere.
I don't know. Interesting. But I'm sure the FBI will evaluate it. All right, I know for some that is, that's not that important to you there if you're listening in, where is it, Gary, Indiana. I won't be so sure because there's a significant Klan membership there in Gary, Indiana, and has always been, by the way. There's some other fish to fry. At some point you get tired of talking about Donald John the Mo Run. You really want to. I know you do, don't you?
A little bit.
But it's always a little something. He always has to.
Y'all gonna offend somebody.
He always has to.
So
It's Mr. President.
He always has to. He always has to. Always has to be something. Well, there's a Klan fighter in Alabama who wants to be the next senator of Alabama. That's right.
Klan fighter. Now, when you say that, do you mean a fighter of the Klan or a fighter for the Klan?
Well, he's a fighter of the Klan. Actually, he was the district attorney who actually put the last remaining Klansmen who were in some circles credited with killing the 4 little girls into prison. He prosecuted Thomas Blanton in 2001 and Bobby Frank Cherry in 2002, the key culprits in the killing of the little girls at the 16th Chapel. He did. And now he's running for the Senate against a ultra-evangelical conservative by the name of Moore. You know, Moore, the one that Donald John did not want to win.
The one who defeated Big Luther.
The Republican nomination, that one. So you've got a guy who prosecuted the Klan running against a guy who, in my view, would empathize with the Klan. They use the same Bible. You understand what I'm saying? That's the reason for it. When you say you're evangelical, particularly when you're in Alabama, or Mississippi for that matter. And, you know, folks, I'm just going to tell you, there was a relationship between crosses and Christianity when it comes to the Klan. And Judge Moore, the former Supreme Court justice, has not weighed in, actually. He's the one that totes the little nickel-plated, looks like a 38. He really held it like a sissy, didn't he? Kind of flipped it out.
A little bit, yeah. They don't teach you guys how
How's
to
his
sing
son,
now,
by the way?
man?
I understand his son is incarcerated again.
Again?
Again. Been 8 times now. He has a drug problem. If I had a father like him, I probably would too.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I can get away with this. This is talk. This is look, folks. This is what I do.
Caleb was last charged with criminal trespassing.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Where was he? Trying to go into a drugstore?
No.
The back door?
No.
To the roof? I'm just checking. I don't
This is
know.
related to a November last year arrest.
How old is he, by the way?
Hunting without permission and hunting over bait.
27?
Caleb is 27.
27 years old. Well, he's a man now.
Yeah.
I'm sure his daddy kicked him out. Probably as his dad should. Not holding it against him. All right. I want to go here just for a minute, and then I've got to go to Moss Point, Mississippi. I do. Because we somewhat broke a story here that we need to deal with, but it's more than that. I want to start first with this sexual assault thing. Now it's become very popular. I want to deal with this, and I want to deal with this man to woman, because there has to be some explanations here. I mean, you guys are familiar with the Weinstein thing that's going on, and so now even ABC now has their potential Weinstein.
ABC.
Yeah, ABC and MSNBC. Well, he's formerly ABC, now MSNBC. He is the political.
Oh, Halpern, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and even George Herbert Walker Bush in a wheelchair.
It's the 3rd time for HW.
I mean, he's in a wheelchair. It's just, if you're going to hug somebody in a wheelchair, I mean, you're right there.
Well, you're right there.
Of course, he came out, giving, a little credit for George Herbert Walker Bush and, of course, Halpern. They both came out immediately and apologized.
Yeah.
And gave some admissions. Even George Herbert Walker said that he liked, everyone, he would Mike Pat, but he didn't realize he was doing something wrong.
This old guy.
93 years old, come on. But which brings me to this. I think that it's important for you ladies to really let a man know immediately when there's an inappropriate advance. Some men can see that as a smile. She smiled at me and then he feels it's okay. On the other hand, some men, if you do not object vehemently when you're groped walking in the club, he will see that as an approval.
Yeah.
Where am I headed with this? Here's where I'm headed with this. It is not unusual for a man, even a potential employer or whoever, for that individual, a man now, for some men, to not ignore that you're an attractive person. Lovely lady. It's not unusual for him to test his bounds. In some cases, just simply just testing. Has no intent whatsoever. In other cases, there are some sleazy individuals who will use that position as what I think Weinstein did to negotiate. Here, watch me take a shower. Here's where I'm at, where I am. It is assault to me when, after saying no, this person continues. This person physically assaults you. Now, there are some who would feel, and I'm just throwing this out there, some who would feel, well, when a guy's in that kind of power and he's in the power of hiring you or making your career, that's a different thing, Rip, not to Rip. Whatever it is you think is that important cannot be more important than your own dignity, in my view. I think that if by chance you prostitute yourself like some Republican senators and House members, then guess what? You deserve it. Now, I'm just going to tell you that. That's a hard way of looking at it. I don't care if it's Weinstein. I don't care if it's the president. It is generally thought that you will have that dignity. That I don't care, career, you got to make the money. Unless you just volunteer to be the prostitute. When such time you give up your dignity and say, okay, I'm going to lay on the couch. I'm just going to accommodate this guy because after all, he can hire me and make my career, then you just started being the hoe, end quotes. Pardon me. Sorry about that. But you've got to decide that as an adult person. You got to decide that. And I'm not at all exonerating sleazes like Weinstein and others. And I know that there are so many others, folks. I've known guys like this. But I've had individuals who have actually propositioned me to tell on someone else to move up. You know, in the broadcasting corporate world, hey, Rep, look, we want to get rid of so-and-so, and so what I need you to do is just let me know every time he does X, Y, or Z. No, really. I've seen this. We're just trying to build a case against him so we can get him out of here. Well, why? Just fire him. I mean, you know, it's like, and some of you go along with that. That, to me, is the same kind of prostitution, is my point. In other words, there are principles, and there are principles, ladies and gentlemen, that I have, that maybe a centuries old, but they were bred into me by a father and a mother who didn't have much, but what they did have, they made good use of, and they made sure I appreciated it. I'm just not going to be pimped, is the point. So done with that said, and I look at this, and I, would like you, the resident female here. I look at this, and I see now 300 people have come out, about 3 of them against George Herbert Bush, suggesting that there was unwarranted, inappropriate advances. I've got to know at what point does it become inappropriate. Man says to you, hey, you look good. Want to go out? And you say no. If he asks, 2 or 3 times thereafter, is that inappropriate?
No, that's persistence. But I think it becomes intimidating when it's like you feel like you're being overpowered or in a physical sense. That's when I become threatened, like if you kind of closing in on me. Like,
do you generally need to feel intimidated for it to feel inappropriate?
Say that again?
Do you need to feel intimidated for it to feel inappropriate? If someone's coming on to you and you feel like they're a
not
threat?
Necessarily. I feel like once the point is across that I'm not interested, then, maybe 1 or 2 times after that is okay. But if it's like, habitual or consistently.
Particularly in the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah, like, no, I'm not interested, okay.
So 1 should be enough?
1 should be enough, but I know that some people
That's a leading
don't
question.
give up easily,
Well, I'm trying to, and look, I don't want to make light of this, because there has to be some, at the very least, definitions of when it becomes inappropriate.
That's why I said physical.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. In other words, not being allowed to leave, someone
something
hemming
like
you
that,
up. Yeah.
cornering me in a corner or.
But if your boss,
touching me or
but
something.
if your boss were to have you come up and you do an interview in his bathroom.
In his bathroom?
Yeah, and that was the case with the Judd girl. He actually had her come up, and he did that with several folks. He was taking a shower, but so let me ask you this: it's inappropriate, but he doesn't make you come in the bathroom.
No, I came by choice.
Okay, so why would you do that?
That would have been a flag for me.
Well, it is a flag.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would have been as willing. Like, okay, I'll be up there.
Well, I understand that, but we're not talking about your thoughts. Well, I guess I am talking about it. But what I'm saying is, how do you charge this guy for something that you do? In other words, he asks you to come up and do the interview. He's taking a shower. He's butt-ass naked sitting there, and you're watching this guy. Why wouldn't you just say, no, I'm not coming to no bathroom.
That's
Job's not worth this.
No.
But what I'm saying is, so now you come back and say, that was inappropriate. And it was. What's
Right.
inappropriate is you're going in there,
Absolutely.
in my view.
I can agree.
You know, I felt the same way about Mike Tyson when he was in the whole rape thing. And I feel the same thing about Bill Cosby, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. At some point, the responsibility and the onus has to be upon that woman to say, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. No. Now then, there's a force, right? But however, you've got to be prepared to lose something before you lose your dignity.
Like that gig.
So, I do get this. I do get the fact that men who are in that position, like Bill O'Reilly, good example. You know, now he just paid $32 million, and that was assault, whereas he's forcing himself on someone.
Yeah.
But
He's mad at God for what he did to himself.
yeah, right. He's mad at God. Well, but what I guess my point is here, I'm just trying to figure out what are the limits, and please don't interpret this as being some condoning of sleazes. I can't stand men who are like that at all. I have no respect, no regard for them whatsoever. Bro, it's too easy to get companionship these days.
There's a lot of them out
Let me tell you, and back in the day, as they say, you had to sing or play basketball to play, to get any kind of line in. And even then, you had to wait in line until your turn, and then visit the daddy, let him hire you up and down. I mean, and there's something to be said for that. But I'm trying to figure out whether or not all these women who's come forward, be it with Weinstein and others, because I've not heard one time where there was a force situation, because that's criminal. When you say a sexual assault to Rip Daniels, that means that you're held, you're being forced.
Okay. I'm trying to get what you're defining as force here. Because, I mean, someone could consider just a brush on their shoulder as force. They feel like it was an unwanted touch. That was a force.
A brush,
touch.
that's not good enough.
No, like a...
I think groping a woman is an assault. I do. I think walking through the club and going through the gauntlet that I've heard women say, and you see some guy running his fist up someone's dress, that is an assault, and that person needs to be dealt with criminally, or by her brother, her dad, or her boyfriend, or just a good male friend. At that point, this guy needs to be dealt with.
Agreed.
Now we're not talking about that though, are we? I mean that's
But we
not.
But we are though, because we're talking about what constitutes unwanted attention or an assault.
At what point hitting on you is something beyond that? With a person verbally, I guess is the question. All right, we're going to get to it. We put that on the table. There's another thing. I'm holding the police report of one Mario King and his wife. Sad situation. We asked about this 2-3 days ago, actually.
Yeah.
I was asking one of our callers from Moss Point what was transpiring because the mayor had put a rather suspicious, shall I say, response on Facebook. You have it?
This is from October 20th.
Well, we'll get to it after.
Okay.
But that's the reason why we asked, was he okay? And is there something going on?
And we asked personally if he was okay.
That combined, you did talk to the mayor, right?
I did.
And what did the mayor tell you? When was that? Was that Monday?
That was Monday and Tuesday, and I was told at the time by the mayor that this was all a much ado about nothing. That there were that these were just folks talking about situations with he and his wife that were baseless claims.
Now, folks, I typically put this up as being dirty laundry. I really would. If it was not in the public domain, public sphere, then it would remain that. I do believe a man's home is his castle, and what people are going through in their relationships is their business. I really do. However, once you put it in the public domain, it's out there. And he put it in the public domain, which is why we mentioned it in the first place.
And we tried to afford him the opportunity to head it off before it became public information. Keep that.
Moss Point has had a very rough time, the chocolate city here on the coast. It just doesn't need another black eye. Pardon the pun. We're going to go into it. And I want to go into it from a positive perspective. What advice would you give this young mayor of a chocolate city? Character is everything for me. But character is something, ladies and gentlemen, you're not taught. It's experience. Your character and what you are is born out of the experiences you've had. My daddy always told me, if you're reared in a pig pen, one day you're going to oink. Just because of the environment you grew up in. We'll be back.
The Jackson Advocate newspaper has been the voice of black Mississippians since 1938. The Jackson Advocate wants to come into your home each week and keep you informed.